the murder of a young nurse. The maniac wanted his crime to remain hidden in the casket with his victim's body. But the woman's spirit will reveal the truth. You are watching Psychic Investigations. It only features real shocking stories that people who call themselves clairvoyants attempt to sort out. Using their supernatural abilities, they solve horrendous murders and unravel unbelievable mystical phenomena. In this episode, the psychics will investigate the murder of a young Ukrainian nurse. Her name was Alina Dyakova. She was 23, and this is her last photo.
Alina always dreamed of being a medic. She enjoyed working at the hospital.
Alina's grandmother was the last person who saw her alive. On her way home, Alina stopped in her village to visit her and bring her medications. After that, she hurried home to give a dripper to her mother, who suffers from a stomach ulcer.
I dialed her and spoke to her on the phone.
At 8 p.m., Alina went to the bus stop. The two villages are 4 kilometers apart, so Alina was supposed to be home 20 minutes later.
I came home and expected her to be back any moment. Then I called her and heard her crying and shouting, "Mom, help me!" I asked her, "Where are you?" But I only heard, "At the cemetery." And that was it. The line went dead.
The bus linking both villages passes by the local cemetery. But the driver says Alina wasn't among his passengers that night.
There's only one cemetery between the villages, so my husband and I quickly went there by car. I called her, I shouted, I ran, and tried to dial her. I heard the tone, but nobody would answer the phone.
Desperate, the mother called the police, and the law enforcers began the search right away, joined by the locals.
Alina was found 2 days after she disappeared. Her body was lying in the field 5 kilometers from the village Alina had been heading for on her last evening. She was undressed, her wrists and ankles were tied, and a black plastic bag was on her head. The forensic examination concluded that the cause of Alina Dyakova's death was a traumatic brain injury. Apart from that, she was beaten badly.
The forensics said her jaw had several fractures.
My husband went to the identification, and my son says it's good I didn't see her.
The victim's cross was found next to her body. Its lace was broken. Most probably, the murderer tore it from the victim's neck.
She helped everyone. She only meant good. Did she really deserve this? Why would somebody do something like that to another person?
All of Alina's personal possessions were with her. That is, it couldn't be a robbery. According to her friends and family, Alina never had conflicts with her friends or colleagues, which excludes the idea that she could be killed as revenge. She wasn't in a relationship at the time of the murder, so it wasn't done out of jealousy. Then the motive remains unclear to date.
I really want to ask for your help.
We need it to be investigated properly, so at least nobody else will be hurt.
The most powerful psychics in our project, Kayal Alekperov and Zhana Shulakova, took up the case.
I have a feeling Alina was put into some kind of casket before she was murdered.
When I asked who the murderer was, my sacred book told me, look for the hand with the cross. Besides, Alina called her mother from the cemetery. It gives me an idea it could be a ritual murder.
The psychic's words can make anyone's hair stand up on their nape. Is Alina really a victim of a bloody ritual?
Hold on. My book gave me 2 more cues. The murderer's hand feeds the dog and find the girl who escaped from the beast. Let's go.
Kayal.
It's unbelievable. Kayal Alekperov was almost hit by the car. Fortunately, the driver hit the brakes at the last moment.
Do you want to kill yourself? What happened?
Zhana, It was as if I teleported into that terrible evening. Through Alina's eyes, I saw the same car, but it was white. Could the murderer be a driver?
So we need to find a similar car.
The psychics arrive at the house of Lilia, Alina's mother. The victim's family, friends, and colleagues are already waiting for them.
Hello, my name's Lilia. I'm Alina's mother.
I'm Alina's aunt. My name's Natalia.
Thank you so much for coming.
Give me your hands. At that moment, I saw Alina's spirit. I wanted to cry suddenly. For some reason, Alina felt huge guilt toward her grandmother. Grandma, forgive me that I didn't bring the flowers.
Alina died on her grandmother's birthday.
I feel she knew she would die. Not long before it happened, she had a nightmare. It was a prophetic dream.
Yes, she told me of it.
She was running, fleeing from a beast that was trying to tear her apart. What lunar phase was it? Can somebody give me a phone? I need to check it out online. What was the lunar phase? Here, look. Here, the moon was full.
But if it really was a ritual murder, and Alina was killed at the cemetery, then here's a question. How did her body end up 5 kilometers away from the cemetery?
What do we have here? The murderer. He's lonely. He knows her, he sees her. He's interested in her.
My book is telling me that the police detained somebody. Do they really have a suspect?
Well, they really arrested a man quickly. But we doubt it could be him.
Then why did they arrest him?
Because he's an ex-convict and was released recently.
The victim's family think the police had simply detained the first suspect they could find, choosing the ex-convict to close the case quickly so the people would calm down.
He's a thief. Previously, he was sentenced for theft.
Yes, when they found him, he had her phone and earbuds.
The suspect's name is Mikhailo, and he lives in the village not far from which Alina was found. During the search at his house, the police found the victim's mobile phone. This was the reason for his detention.
My book says that Alina had valuable jewelry on her, and it was untouched. It was something in the shape of swallows.
Gold earrings. They were on her.
He took nothing. He didn't even touch the gold.
The old jailbird took the phone but didn't touch the gold. It's really weird.
Mikhailo has a wife and a 13-year-old daughter. But Jana Shulikova claimed Alina's murderer was a lonely man who knew the victim. Mikhailo never knew Alina. All her friends and relatives confirm it.
Did the police make a mistake, and the dangerous murderer is still free? The psychics go to the cemetery, from where, according to her mother, Alina called her.
She was brought in a car.
Alina never got into strangers' cars.
She knew the man in the car. I see the car with Alina pull over here. The murderer starts harassing your daughter, grabbing her hands. She realizes she's in danger, and she needs to run. And so, she runs away.
There. She runs, crying and shouting. She takes her phone. She says, "I see crosses." She's going to tell his name, but she's too late. She suffocates. She trailed off no sooner she had inhaled. And then a bump. 1, 2. Blood squirts. There's blood everywhere. She's all beaten so badly.
As an ex-serviceman, I saw a lot of blood and was in many terrible situations. But even at war, people weren't as cruel as this beast who tormented the defenseless woman.
To understand who the real murderer was, the psychics go to the site where Alina made her last call to her mother.
Constant buzz in my ears, it's like emptiness.
Are you unwell?
My God, this is awful. She suffered so much. She tries to hide the phone. She's afraid to lose it because she's afraid she won't be found and saved. Oh God, she's shouting out. She's shouting out. She's calling. She's screaming. She's shouting, "Mom!"
I still hear her calling because I heard it over the phone. I can't forget it no matter what I do. She was waiting for me and she was calling me, hoping I would find her.
Different punches and kicks, and one of them is a massive thump, like with a club, or something long, like a pipe. An iron pipe.
A metal pipe. The people who helped with the searching found it here.
There are 2 murder weapons and 2 men. There were 2 of them.
According to Alina's relatives, she spent several years learning martial arts, and she was very fit. As such, she would have probably escaped from one attacker.
If you take the arrested man, he's frail. And she would have easily dealt with him.
She is lying down. She feels very bad, but she's not dead yet.
Alina was taken away from here.
The psychics and Alina's family go to the site where Alina's body was found. The representative of the local self-defense unit has also arrived. He was the first to find the body in the field during the search.
She was lying here, like this. The bag on her head was tied with duct tape, and her wrists and ankles were duct taped too.
They put the plastic bag on her head because the murderer was afraid to stain his car's interior with blood. I feel she was undressed.
She was lying like this, naked.
First, I thought that your daughter's murder was of a ritual nature, but now I see the murderers wanted to rape Alina.
By the time of the investigation, the results of the autopsy weren't ready yet, so nobody knew whether Alina had been raped or not. But before the episode aired, we were sent a copy of the autopsy results. According to it, there was sperm in Alina Dyakova's body.
Now, I see the 2 men bring your daughter here in the car.
A cigarette smoldering, smoke rising. He dropped the cigarette and they left.
Indeed, the investigators found a cigarette butt next to Alina's body. It was taken for the examination, and the sample of the saliva found on it was compared to that of Mikhailo, the suspect. They didn't match.
Wait, it wasn't dark then, and the sun was rising. Alina was brought here in the morning.
She spent the whole night in a tiny, enclosed, dirty, dark, and cold room. I smell dampness. A white house and a small window and a blue frame.
Can you show it? Can you find this house?
I think my jinns can show the way. We've got to go straight. There is a cafe or a store next to the house in which they kept your daughter. And I hear a dog barking. Your daughter heard it too before she died. Now turn left.
The clairvoyants enter the village. They feel the murderers kept Alina somewhere here.
Wait. Here. Is it the store?
Let's get outside.
I feel it was here. This house. This is where Alina was kept before she died. Is anybody home?
I said stop it. Hush. Sit.
Could you tell me, please, who lives here?
Mikhailo used to live here.
What are you doing here?
I'm looking after my friend's home.
This man's name is Dimitro, and he lives next door. Suddenly, the psychics notice the white car in the yard.
Alina's murderer drove a white car.
Could it be the same car Alina got in on the night of her murder?
Why was Mikhailo arrested?
They claim he murdered a girl.
Is it the same Mikhailo?
The suspect?
At that moment, I remembered the cue my book had given me, the hand with the cross. Could it be a tattoo? Tell me, does Mikhailo have a tattoo on his hand?
He does.
Is it a cross?
Yes.
Does this mean the man detained by the police is really guilty? But if the psychics are right, he didn't commit the crime alone. Who is the second murderer?
Can we come into the yard to work?
Just a moment. Let me tether the dog.
I feel Alina's energy. This is where she was tied and then raped.
The lid of the casket. Here is your daughter's casket. I can't be in here. I feel sick. I need to get out. It's unbearable.
It was awful to look at the shed, knowing my daughter died in it.
Tell me, do you feed the dog?
Well, yes.
My book tells me the murderer's hand feeds the dog. Did you see Mikhailo that day?
When?
When the young woman was murdered.
Of course I did.
You and he drank.
Do you mean you came to visit him and you drank alcohol together?
I had 2 shots. He invited me in to reconcile.
Tell me, what time were you in this house?
It was 6:30 or 6:40.
In other words, roughly 90 minutes before Alina disappeared, Mikhailo was at home drinking, and Dimitro was with him.
Did he have any other guests? Did you see anybody else?
There were his ex-wife, his girlfriend, and his kids.
All right, so it means you and him were the only men there, right?
Yes.
And you both were in the house, weren't you?
What happened after you had the 2 shots with Mikhailo?
He told me, bro, let's go get more vodka and something to munch.
And you went with Mikhailo to buy more vodka, didn't you?
I didn't want to go with him, so I went home. It was 7:15.
And an hour later, Alina's mother called her to find where she was. It was when she was at the cemetery, trying to flee from her murderers.
Can anybody confirm that?
I live alone.
The detained suspect has a family, but my card showed me that the murderer was lonely. Dimitro lives alone.
But there is no evidence that Dimitro was involved in the murder, and there are no witnesses who could say that he was home at the time.
I have one more question. Did you know Alina?
No, I didn't even know her name.
I feel you're lying. You did know her. Your work connected you.
Well, I saw her often. I'm a plumber at the regional hospital. I've worked there for 6 or 7 years, so I saw her there. I saw her quite often, as my job is to check piping in the wards and rooms.
In other words, she knew you, and you knew her. Is that right?
Well, yes.
Are you trying to say you didn't know her name, even though you worked at the same place? I see he's lying.
I wasn't there. I didn't go anywhere. Why are you blaming me?
Dimitro, your reaction is very suspicious. Why are you so nervous? Did anybody blame you for something?
Since the man had no alibi on the night of Alina's death, I carried out my own investigation in relation to him. I asked the villagers, and I was shocked to hear what they told me.
He's not simply aggressive, he's mental.
According to his neighbor, once Dimitro got drunk and attacked another villager who refused to lend him money. Moreover, it turned out that a day before the murder, Dimitro and Mikhailo had had a row.
I only know they were drinking together. As far as I know, Dmytro began harassing Mikhailo's stepdaughter. She's about 15, if I'm not mistaken. Her mother was shouting loudly.
This is she, the girl who escaped from the beast.
It's yet another proof that it wasn't a problem for him to attack a defenseless young woman.
We're only saying what we feel. Accusation is the job of the police.
Please press the police. Do anything to make them resume the investigation. Not just one of them has his hands bloodied.
Thank you for responding and helping us.
I am genuinely grateful. Now we know the answers. And we heard the truth we needed to hear.
It's hard to comprehend everything that happened to Alina Dyakova. If you're impressed by the story, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Many more shocking investigations by the psychics are still ahead.